Kirachem av al banim, richam Adonai al yereav. As a parent has compassion for children, so God has compassion for us. God knows how we are fashioned. God remembers that we are but dust. But Adonai's compassion is everlasting, and God's kindness to children's children endures, age after age, unchanging. We always begin our service with the recitation of Psalms, the oldest prayers that we have, going back to the time of the Bible. And in that way, we'll link Arnold Sadwin's life to 3,000 years of Jewish tradition, the people Israel, and the eternity of God. Esaenai ehel heharim me'ayin ya'avo ezri Esaenai ehel heharim me'ayin ya'avo ezri Ezri me'im Adonai Oseh shamayim va'aretz Al yiten lamot raglecha Al yanum shomrecha Hine lo yanum velo yishan shomer Yisrael Adonai shomrecha Adonai tzilcha al yad yaminecha Yomam hashemesh lo yakeka v'yareach balayla Adonai yishmarcha mikol ra Yishmor et nafshecha Adonai yishmor tzedcha voecha me'ata ve'ad olam. I lift my eyes to the mountains. What is the source of my help? The psalm begins with that question, and the rest of the psalm is the answer. The source of my help is the Lord, creator of heaven and earth. He will not let you falter. Your guardian does not slumber. Surely the guardian of Israel neither slumbers nor sleeps. He is at your right hand to protect you. The Lord, your keeper, gives shelter. The sun will not smite you by day, nor the moon by night. The Lord will guard you from all harm. The Lord will preserve your soul. He will guard your going and coming from this time forth and forever. Mizmor LeDavid, another of the Psalms of David. Adonai ro'i lo echsar bino tedesha yarbitzeni, al mei menuchot yenahaleni, nafshi yeshovev, yancheni v'magle tzedek lema'an shemo, gam ki elech begetz al mavet lo irara ki ata imadi, shiftech al mishantecha heme anachamuni, ta'aroch lefanai shulcha neged sorerai, dishanta v'Hashem en roshi kosida vaya, ach tov v'chesed yudafuni kol yemei chayai, v'shavti bevet Adonai le'orech yamim. Those are the Hebrew words of a psalm we know so well from settings such as this. Psalm 23, we sometimes call it the shepherd psalm. Recite with me. The Lord is my shepherd, I shall not want. He maketh me to lie down in green pastures. He leadeth me beside the still waters. He restoreth my soul. He guideth me in straight paths for his name's sake. Yea, though I walk through the valley of the shadow of death, I will fear no evil, for thou art with me. Thy rod and thy staff, they comfort me. Thou preparest a table before me in the presence of mine enemies. Thou hast anointed my head with oil, my cup runneth over. Surely goodness and mercy shall follow me all the days of my life, and I shall dwell in the house of the Lord forever. At this season of the year in the synagogue, we're currently reading from the book of Leviticus, third book of the Bible, but it is from the biblical book of beginnings, Bereshit, that we learn not only of the beginnings of life, but we also learn of life's end. And there, in reading about the passing of the matriarchs and the patriarchs of our people, we learn that it's members of the family who come forward to speak words of memory, words of eulogy. And so, in keeping with that truly ancient tradition, we're going to hear today from Michael and Moya.
Hello, everyone. Thanks for coming. My grandfather was a great guy. He was really kind, very nice and generous, and so on and so forth. But I think if one thing could be said, if he was still here, he would say, speak up and skip all that nonsense and get to the point. So, now I wasn't here for all the times that he said this, but apparently he said this throughout his life. He talked about this day, and he said not to be sad. And it's hard not to be sad. And it's hard not to cry. But he said don't cry. Now, I don't know this for a fact, but I've heard that it was a very rare thing to see him cry. And I actually had the privilege of seeing him cry one time, and it was at the death of my pet iguana. And it really felt special to me to know that such a seemingly trivial thing at the time, it made me feel like he really cared about me. And as most of you know, I like reptiles, and I've always liked reptiles, and I had a lot of fun going to the reptile shows with my grandfather. He took me to some of them. And there was one in particular, it was in King of Prussia. We went one year, and it was really fun. So then when the year came around again, we looked on the website, and they had the tickets for sale, so we got the tickets. And we looked at the date and saw that it said Sunday the 16th, but it was Saturday the 16th. We thought, well, it's just a typo. So we went all the way up there, and we got to the place, and we noticed a lack of reptiles. And so we kind of scratched our heads a little bit and found the front desk and went up to the receptionist there and said, hey, where's the reptile show? Where do we go? And she looked at us confused and said, we don't have one today. We had one last year. And I said, well, we got the tickets here. We bought them online. And she pointed out that it was 2006 on the tickets, and it was 2007 at the current time. So we then turned around and laughed all the way home. And so the last story I want to share, some of you know because I've told you, but most of you probably don't. And it's something that as soon as it happened, I knew this is where I wanted to tell the story. So I was about 12 or 13, and that's important, so keep that in mind. So we were at the old house after 12:05, and we were talking about something, I'm not sure. I don't really remember, but he was carrying a hamper full of laundry up the stairs, and when we got to the top, an article of clothing fell out, and it wasn't just a shirt or pants, it was one of my grandmother's brassieres. And already right there, I'm 12 or 13, so this was hilarious to me. And I didn't want to laugh because I thought it would be disrespectful or something, I don't know. I was shy. So after we were talking, he stops, looks at me and says, in a calm, totally a matter-of-fact voice, pick up the boob thing, let's go. And I'm 12 or 13, and a lot of my life I'm thinking about what do I call this that's funny, and we go to school, and this 75-year-old man thinks of the boob thing, and I was like, wow, what a genius, why didn't I think of that? So, and I think of it very frequently, and it still makes me laugh today, and I just wanted to say, bye, Papa, I'll always miss you, you'll always make me smile.
Mine's not very funny, so sorry. Okay, so if you don't know, I'm Moya. I'm Dr. Zabin's youngest grandchild, and I'm 21, so that's pretty good. And I hope that everybody gets that much time with the people they love. And so when he would tell me that he loved me, it was always like in a way as though love was not the word, that there was something that he felt that was stronger than love. And it just always made me feel so special. And I'll just always remember the way that he said it. And so if you don't know, I'm about to graduate from Rutgers with my bachelor's in psychology. So I know he was so proud of me for that. And I know that he really cared about me, and he would have done anything for me, and he did. So, I just want to thank his body for carrying him 88 years, and to thank his soul that remains in everyone who knew him. And I just want to tell everyone a few things that he told me. before he died. He said that dying is such sweet sorrow, and I know that the sorrow is mostly on our end because he will be missed so much. But, he was surrounded in his last days by people who loved him, and he was welcomed by people who loved him. And then, I just want to say that what happened had to happen, and there's no reason to ask what if or, why it happened. So I also wanted to say that April was a really good time, and I think he knew that because there are no birthdays in our family in April. So I think that it was the right time for him. And then the last thing he told me was to carry on. And so I just want everybody to have a wonderful life full of adventure so that when we meet again, we have stories and memories to share and we'll laugh forever. Thank you.
So let me see if I can take a bit of what's been said and much of what I heard yesterday and place it into a context. I've already noted that this season of the year we're reading from the book of Leviticus. But there's another tradition that's in process at this time of the year. We are counting the Omer. We're marking the time from the festival of Passover to the festival of Shavuot, from the celebration of the Exodus from Egypt to the giving of Torah at Sinai. And the way we do that is that each day for 49 consecutive days, we recite a blessing and we count the day. Today is the 16th day of the counting of the Omer. And that process, carried on for such a prolonged period, must make us conscious of the blessings in each and every day of life. And this is surely a sad day for Arnie's family and friends. Still, it is clear that there were many blessings in his life and that he brought blessing to all of yours. We've already heard that reflected in the words of Michael and Moya. And there's also an excellent obituary that summarizes some of Arnie's accomplishments. Nevertheless, there is more that can and should be said. He lived for 88 years of days, and they were full indeed. College, military service, medical school, 59 years as a practicing physician, a marriage of 60 years with Sue, children, Donna engaged to Michael, Stuart married to Valerie, Lori married to Paul, grandchildren, Allison and Kelly, as well as Michael and Moya. And that simple list is impressive. Each item can be counted as a blessing. The blessings become even more clear when we consider some of the additional details. Arnie was born in 1926, which makes him a child who was raised in the Depression era. His father was from Lithuania, and although his mother was born in this country, her parents were also from Lithuania. The impact of the Depression is clear from the story you told about Arnie's father's curtain factory not doing well, as was the case with so many New England mills in that era. So his dad moved the family to California in hopes of finding more opportunity. Arnie had 4 older brothers, Harold, Daniel, Sherwood, and Robert, as well as a sister, Thelma. It was quite costly to take the whole family across country by train, so they stretched the truth a little bit about Arnie's age to save on a ticket. And on that trip, they met Jimmy Durante, who in the course of conversation asked Arnie's age, and he blurted out 7 loudly, blowing his cover for anybody around him to hear. But Jimmy Durante quickly took the focus off of that with some quick comments. Within a few months, it became clear that California had nothing to offer in increased economic security, so the family moved back. And in time, the curtain business recovered and became quite successful. It didn't come easy. Often days become blessed through hard work. It takes effort. Arnie seems to have learned that lesson well. You work to make a good life, a better life for family. The days of the Depression were no blessing, but the life lessons gleaned from those days surely were for those who lived them and for the generations to follow who were the beneficiaries of the lessons learned. Another line from the obituary so simply stated, Arnold, along with all four brothers, served in World War II. Being drafted from college into the Navy during a world war is hardly a blessing. But all of us can count our blessings because Arnie and many like him served their country. Tom Brokaw wrote a book about Arnie and all who served in World War II. It's titled The Greatest Generation. Listen to the words of its introduction. At a time in their lives when their days and nights should have been filled with the innocent adventure of love, the lessons of the workaday world, they were fighting in the most primitive conditions possible across the landscapes of France, Belgium, Italy, Austria, the Coral Islands of the Pacific. They answered the call to save the world from the two most powerful and ruthless military machines ever assembled, instruments of conquest in the hands of fascist maniacs. They faced great odds and a late start, but they did not protest. They succeeded on every front. They won the war. They saved the world. They came home to joyous but short-lived celebrations and immediately began the task of rebuilding their lives and the world they wanted. They married in record numbers and gave birth to another distinctive generation, the baby boomers. A grateful nation made it possible for more of them to attend college than any society had ever educated anywhere. They gave the world new science, literature, art, industry, economic strength, and the unparalleled long curve of history. That accomplishment is reason for all of us here today to give thanks to Arnie and all those who served along with him. And it was only after serving that he was able to go back to complete his bachelor's at Boston University. He wanted to go to medical school, but there weren't enough places available after the war. So he went to dental school for a year before going to Chicago Medical School. He was determined to become a doctor, and he did. That individual achievement is also significant in the arc of American Jewish history. We noted that Arnie was the child of an immigrant father, so he was, in that sense, a first-generation American. This is one of the great success stories of our history. From immigrants to professionals in one generation. It derives from the blessings of opportunity offered by this country, but also from the determination to use one's days well to make those blessings a reality. The effort then became a blessing to the generations to follow, to the next generations as well. Now, some days are more blessed than others. It was while Arnie was studying Chicago that he met Sue. Sue tells it this way. She was visiting her sister, and they were watching a guy try to squeeze a little blue car into a parking space, which he finally managed to do. Then he got out and dropped a bunch of books that he was carrying. So they helped to pick them up. Turns out he was living in the same apartment building as Sue's sister. 6 months later, Arnie and Sue were married. And I asked Sue, what attracted him to her? And she said, he was nice, he was friendly, he was bright, he knew a bit about everything, he was good looking, and he was only 4 inches taller than I was. Great qualification. They were married on Thanksgiving Day, making that day one of special blessing. The honeymoon was 3 wonderful days in Iowa. That is not a place that most of us associate as being at the top of the list of honeymoon destinations. Sue explained it simply. Arnie was in med school. They didn't have time or money for more. 60 years of marriage later, children, grandchildren, and all can count their blessings for that Thanksgiving Day. The days of those 60 years have been full indeed. Arnie became chief of neuropsychiatry at Graduate Hospital and assistant clinical professor of neurology and psychiatry at the University of Pennsylvania. He would go on to receive a 50-year pin from Penn. He co-authored works on pain, conquering chronic pain after injury. He was recognized with a variety of awards. More important to Arnie than the titles and the texts was the treatment of patients. He helped thousands over the years. The obituary says that he was a kind, gentle, compassionate man. Those are clearly qualities that make for a good physician, especially a psychiatrist. But there was something more that you, Donna, Stuart, and Lori said about your dad, and what characterized him as a father as well as a physician. You said he was a good listener. Now, I want to share with you 2 texts from Jewish tradition. The first is from the book of Psalms. Limnot yamenu ken hoda v'navi levav chachma. The psalmist says, teach us to number our days that we may acquire a heart of wisdom. Wisdom, knowledge is important, and your dad clearly loved learning. He was a lifelong learner. But what is significant in the psalmist formulation is that wisdom is associated with the heart. It is not merely a matter of intellect, a function of knowing. It's a function of caring, of taking things to heart, and of putting your heart into what matters. That constitutes wisdom, real wisdom. Arnie put his heart into his family. He made time for family. Stuart, you talked about the ball games that your dad took you to. The fact that you went to the last game at Connie Mack Stadium, to the last game at the Vet, to the first game at the Phillies' current ballpark. Now, I don't know that there's much blessing in seeing the Phillies play these days. Of course, they were better back when you first went with your dad. But the real blessing is that your father made time to go to those games with you. And you're still recounting the blessing in those days shared at the ballpark. And for you, Donna and Lori, it was the memories of the days spent in summer vacations at the shore. Every summer, 2 or 3 weeks. And those days remain a memory that is a blessing. For you, Sue, it is all the travel shared to virtually every continent except Antarctica. The blessing of so many days together, raising a family, making a life. Arnie made time for family. Levav Chochmah, the heart of wisdom, using days wisely. And it wasn't just the time spent. All of you, Donna, Stuart, Lori, all of you agreed that he was the type of father you could talk to, that he had insight into people, that he was non-judgmental, and that he was a good listener. That too is part of Levav Chachma, which brings me to the second text from our tradition. According to the Bible, Solomon was the wisest of men. Legend has it that he once had a dream. And in that dream, God offered Solomon the fulfillment of any wish that he would make. Now, he did not wish for fame or fortune or power. Instead, he asked God to grant him a lev shomea, a listening heart, so that he might understand his people. And that is why he is reputed to have been the wisest of rulers, the wisest of men. The capacity to listen with the heart. Surely all of you have benefited from your father's lev shomea, and so have thousands of patients over the years. That same listening heart made him a wonderful doctor, as well as a good husband, father, grandfather, and friend. Arnie made his days a blessing to many because he used his days, as the psalmist suggested, to acquire a heart of wisdom and the ability to listen with heart. That has been the source of many texts that the family has received from former patients, as well as the warm and loving words of those closest to him. And I had an email from Valerie this morning in which she said about her father-in-law, some people don't take up much space when they live their lives. They stay within their comfort zone and are satisfied. But that wasn't Arnie. Arnie never lost his sense of discovery and pure joy in people and living. He was not perfect, but he was a model on how to live life to the fullest, and many of us can learn from him. And from Colin Hogan, a post to Facebook. Today I write this post with a profound sense of sorrow at the passing of Dr. Arnold Sadwin, a man who's been like a grandfather to me. He was the kind of man that one strives to be like, kind, generous, intelligent, with a sense of duty to the people and the world around him. One only need look at his 3 children and 4 grandchildren to see that there is still goodness in the world. And so today we say goodbye and travel well to a man who was truly one of a kind. All of you who knew him best appreciated the blessings he brought into your lives. You enjoyed his joy in music. He and Sue had tickets to the Philadelphia Orchestra for years, and the girls said he was even willing to attend a Pink Floyd concert with them. You noted his enthusiasm for travel, which we've already mentioned. His fascination with gadgets. Family had among the first color TVs in the neighborhood, the first microwave oven, and he even managed to come up with a way of putting together an 8mm camera and a tape recorder to take sound movies. He learned in later years by surfing the internet. He kept up with the latest of gadgets. And you all appreciated the thousands of photographs he took, and some which were actually award-winning photographs. He was a real Renaissance man. Most of all, he was a person that people liked. He was witty, warm, and fun. And even in the hospital and rehab following his heart attack, that remained the case. Arnie was a person who loved life, loved people, and that made an impression upon so many. It brought blessings to the days of his life and the lives of those he touched. He had a heart of wisdom, and he put his heart into living fully. And people responded by opening their hearts to him. Family, most of all. And you were all there for him in these last difficult days, none more than you, Sue, a life partner of 60 years. Now, Because of the way Arnie lived, you will all carry many memories with you, and they will surely be the source of strength and blessing for all the days to come. We rise for a final prayer. El malei rachamim shochen b'meromim hametzei menucha nechona tachat kanfei hashchina b'malot kedoshim etohorim kezohar harakia mazidim et nishmat Elchanan ben Eliezer Yitzchak shehalach lolamo began eden te menuchato Ana bal rachamim hasdirehu beseta kenafecha leolamim uhutzror bitzrachim et nishmato Adonai hu nachalato v'yanorach b'shalom hamishkavo v'nomar Amen. O God, exalted and full of compassion, grant perfect peace in your sheltering presence among the holy and the pure to the soul of Arnold Sadwin, who has gone to his eternal home. Master of mercy, we beseech you, remember all the kind, caring, and loving deeds that he performed in the land of the living. May his soul be bound up in the bond of life. You, O Lord, are his portion. May he rest in peace. And we say, Amen. Be seated for a moment, please. Just want to note that at the conclusion of services at the cemetery, the family will be going to Lamberti's, and they would welcome callers there.